Dexter, Original Sin Season 1 ending, featured many narrative twists, dramatic scenes, and happy endings, although there were also a lot of events in the Dexter prequel that warrant explanation. The 10th episode of Original Sin managed to satisfactorily connect all of the season's significant developments. Harry Morgan had the opportunity to face the NHI killer, Brian Moser, while Dexter had the opportunity to apprehend and murder the kidnapping Aaron Spencer, Patrick Dempsey. At the conclusion of Original Sin, Deborah Molly Brown also made a significant life decision, and the original show's plot points largely came together. Just after Harry, Dexter, and Deb had overcome their obstacles, Dexter, Original Sin, revealed some of the outcomes of their choices. When they found out that she was going to the police academy, Dexter and Harry were thrilled. Dexter also secured a full-time job at Miami Metro as a forensic technician. Despite witnessing his comrade Bobby Watt, Reno Wilson, survive his gunshot wound, Harry damaged his relationship with Maria Lagerta, Christina Milian. Original Sin has a lot of happy endings, but the journey there requires a little more explanation. When Dexter faced Aaron Spencer, the police captain started drowning Nikki, despite Dexter's customary claims that he is a heartless monster. Dexter nearly let Spencer escape, but he chose to spare Nikki's life instead, despite his strong desire to kill Spencer. Dexter's decision to save Nikki was mostly motivated by his empathy for the boy and his profound distress at any acts of abuse against children. Dexter wanted to keep Nikki safe more than he wanted to kill Spencer, which is the same reason he let Spencer go in Original Sin Episode 9. Even though he wasn't conscious of it in Original Sin, Dexter's childhood tragedy had a lasting impact on him as an adult. Dexter probably recognized himself in Nikki and seized the chance to save his life. Since Dexter isn't truly a monster, Original Sin also granted him the opportunity to save a life rather than take one. Despite what he tells the viewer, Dexter is still a human being, even though he is undoubtedly a serial killer and a nasty guy. In situations where Nikki's life was at stake, Dexter's humanity triumphed over his dark passenger. Harry's last confrontation with Brian Moser, Roby Atal, was one of the more startling moments in the Original Sin season finale. In the end, Harry said to Brian, "You can hate me for good reasons and still know that I am the best thing for Dexter." After Harry's remarks persuaded Brian, he was knocked unconscious and scribbled, "You're right," in his blood on the wall. It was evident to Brian, who had been observing Dexter for a while, that Dexter had a happy existence as Harry's kid. Brian consented to leave Dexter alone since Harry genuinely loved him and Dexter liked his somewhat regular family. Dexter was able to swiftly find Spencer at the home of Spencer's ex-wife, Becca, Amanda Brooks, after he had been released. Dexter was able to spare Becca's life because he understood that Spencer was driven by his anger and was too furious to follow reason and run. In many respects, Spencer is similar to Dexter. Following his divorce from Becca, Spencer's anger and violent tendencies drove him to entirely disregard reason and empathy. He represented what Dexter might become in the absence of the code of Harry, a monster who follows his every impulse without thinking about the consequences. Harry and Dexter discussed everything that had happened to them in a debriefing at the conclusion of Original Sin Season 1, Episode 10. After telling Harry about Spencer and how he had saved Nikki's life, Dexter bemoaned the fact that he had been born a killer and that Spencer had turned into a monster. But since Harry was still working to save Dexter from having to deal with the memory of Laura's passing, he didn't correct him. He had just persuaded Brian to keep away in order to preserve Dexter's innocence, so Harry wouldn't simply decide to come clean. Deb received a call earlier in Season 1 of Original Sin informing her that, despite being expelled from the volleyball team for punching a teammate in the face, Florida State University was still granting her a scholarship to play. Deb, however, chose to apply to Miami Metro's police school after seeing Harry. Deb's desire to take charge of her life was the primary factor in her decision to join the police rather than attend college. Deb told the unconscious Bobby Watt, Reno Wilson, that she felt the need to change since her life was getting out of hand. Brian Moser gazed at Dexter, Deb, and Harry dancing together in the Season 1 finale of Original Sin. However, Brian had recently promised to avoid Dexter, so it was a little unclear why he was still pursuing his younger brother. Brian understood that Harry was Dexter's best chance for happiness, but he couldn't help himself. His obsession with his younger brother, his anger at Harry, and his belief that Dexter's return was the only path to happiness persisted. Brian had to be involved with Dexter's life, even if it was only to observe from the background. Despite focusing on the highly specific scenario of a vigilante serial killer, Dexter, Original Sin Season 1 explores far more universal topics. The central idea of original sin, the value and strength of family, was advocated by Dexter himself. He said that family was the one thing that could save him, even though he would never be normal. Dexter was also correct. Deborah's love kept him kind and sensitive, and the code of Harry prevented him from becoming a monster like Aaron Spencer or Brian Moser. Dexter was able to control his dark passenger with the support of his adoptive family. Dexter, Original Sin is also, in many respects, a tale of human nature and how to become a decent person. Dexter frequently claims that he was destined to be a monster and that, despite his inability to control his dark passenger, he manages to do so. He follows Harry's counsel, lends Deb a hand when she needs it, and perhaps most importantly, chooses to save Nikki rather than murder Spencer. In essence, Dexter, Original Sin Season 1 demonstrates that even if someone feels like a monster, they may always choose to act morally. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.